This is the story of a man who walked on water, but also the story of someone who sank right in front of Jesus and was still saved. What happened that night changes everything you think about faith, doubt, and unconditional love. Stay with me until the end, because maybe this is your story too. The night was far advanced. The sky was completely dark, and the stars seemed to hide behind the clouds as if they too feared what was coming. The darkness was dense, almost suffocating, and the Sea of Galilee roared like a wild, untamable beast, furious and chaotic. Winds pounded violently against the boat, tossing it like a nutshell. Water surged over the deck, and the sails hung low, useless against such a fierce storm. The disciples, exhausted, rode with their last reserves of strength, muscles tight, hands torn, hearts racing. They had obeyed the Master. They had done exactly what he said, crossed to the other side. But now they were alone, in the middle of the night, in the middle of the sea, in the middle of fear. It wasn't just a physical storm, it was spiritual. With every wave, a new doubt. With every flash of lightning, a memory. Why did he stay behind? Were they forgotten? Had they failed? Were they being punished? Each stroke of the oar felt useless. Each minute felt eternal. The sky was silent. The boat was vulnerable. And Jesus absent. The question none of them dared to say aloud echoed in every heart. Why did he send us alone? It's easy to trust when the skies are clear. It's easy to believe when he's beside you. But when the sky goes dark, when the boat rocks, when he's nowhere in sight, that's when true faith is revealed. Then suddenly, something moved in the darkness, a shadow. Then footsteps on the water. Eyes widened, panic spread. "It's a ghost!" one of them cried out. Fear took a new shape. The sea wasn't the only enemy anymore. Now the unknown terrified them even more. But before despair could take over, a voice pierced the storm, like thunder wrapped in peace. "It is I, do not be afraid." That voice, unmistakable, the same voice that healed lepers with a touch, that raised the dead with a word, that calmed another storm by simply saying, "Be still." Now it echoed over the waters, walking through fear, coming for his own. How many times do we feel the same way? We obey God, we follow his voice, and suddenly everything collapses. The sky goes silent. The boat shakes. Our faith grows weary, and yet he comes. Sometimes we don't recognize him right away. Sometimes we think it's a ghost, a threat, a mistake. But Jesus always comes. Not always the way we expect, but always at the moment we need him most. And while the others stood frozen, one man made a decision that would mark him forever. He didn't just want to witness the miracle, he wanted to walk on it. Peter stood up, body tired but heart burning. The wind still hit his face. The rain fell like needles. The boat rocked. The others watched in silence. But Peter, didn't take his eyes off Jesus. There was something about the one walking on the water. Not the shape, not the clothes blowing in the wind. It was the presence. Something in him recognized that voice. A peace that didn't make sense in the middle of the storm. And Peter did what no one else had the courage to do. He broke through fear with one sentence. Lord, if it's really you, tell me to come to you on the water. It was a strange request. He didn't say, come to me. He said, call me closer. He didn't want safety. He wanted presence. Jesus didn't explain. He didn't preach. He just said, come. Time stood still. The other disciples watched, confused. The sound of the sea faded for a moment. Peter stepped to the edge of the boat. He knew what he was about to do made no sense. But faith rarely does. He swung one leg over, then the other, and stood on the sea. He didn't sink. His feet touched the impossible like solid ground. Then one step, then another, and another. The storm still howled. The waves still rose. But Peter walked because his eyes were fixed on Jesus. And as long as that gaze remained, the miracle held. Faith doesn't mean the storm isn't real. It doesn't mean fear disappears. Faith is choosing to walk anyway, eyes locked on Jesus. Peter didn't step out to defy logic. He stepped out to trust the one who called him. He wasn't walking on water by the strength of his legs, but by the strength of his gaze. And here's a deep truth. You only start to sink when you stop looking at the one who called you. But faith is fragile when your focus splits. And that's exactly what happened next. The wind grew stronger, like a wicked whisper twisting in his ear. The waves rose higher, no longer just surrounding Peter, but daring him to keep walking. And then it happened, just for a second. Peter looked away. He stopped looking at Jesus and started noticing the storm, the water's strength, the madness of the moment, the possibility of failure, and what had been a miracle turned into fear. The faith beneath his feet began to fade. The sea, once solid under him, now pulled him down. He sank. First his ankles, then his knees, his balance gone. Panic rushed in. His thoughts spiraled. What have I done? I should have stayed in the boat. I'm not worthy. That's what fear does. It lies. It makes us forget Jesus was the one who called us out in the first place. The waves grabbed at him. The sea swallowed. But Peter, even sinking, cried out, Lord, save me. He didn't try to fix it himself. He didn't try to swim. He knew only Jesus could save him. And immediately, Jesus reached out his hand. No hesitation, no scolding. He grabbed him. He lifted him. That is grace. Jesus doesn't wait for perfect faith. He doesn't require constant strength. He responds to the sincere cry, even when we doubt, even when we fall. He never does. Here's the truth. Jesus doesn't save us because we always trust perfectly. He saves because he is perfectly faithful, even when we doubt him. He never doubts us. And what Jesus did next reveals more than power. It reveals his heart. Jesus gripped Peter's hand, strong and steady, not hesitant, not weak. It was the same hand that healed the blind, that blessed children, that would soon be nailed to a cross. That hand now held a sinking man and pulled him up. Peter was soaked, embarrassed, shaking, not just from the cold, but from the shame of falling. Jesus looked at him, not with judgment, but with compassion. He said, "You of little faith, why did you doubt?" No shouting, no blame, no punishment, because Jesus doesn't teach like the world does. He lifts, and then he walks with you. Notice this. Jesus didn't carry Peter. He held his hand and walked back with him. Peter was still weak, but he was walking, because the hand holding him was stronger than the storm that tried to sink him. What holds us up isn't calm seas. It's not perfect conditions. It's the presence of the one who never lets go. Even when we fall through doubt, fear, or failure, Jesus lifts us, and then he walks us home. Peter wasn't left behind. He was restored, step by step, over the same water that almost swallowed him. That's redemption, not returning alone. Returning with Jesus, that's grace not earned, but freely given. But the greatest miracle hadn't happened yet. They climbed back into the boat. Peter was drenched, out of breath, but he wasn't alone. Jesus was with him. And as soon as the feet of the Savior touched the wet wood, the wind stopped, not faded, not eased, stopped. The sea calmed like a lion tamed by its creator. Nature itself bowed before the one who made it. A sacred silence filled the air, not empty silence, but a presence, the kind that makes hearts tremble. Everyone in the boat looked at Jesus, not as they had before, not just as teacher or prophet, but as the Son of God. Peter had no words. He didn't need any. The other disciples began to kneel, not out of duty, but revelation. Truly, you are the Son of God. The fear was gone, the doubt silenced, faith awakened. Peter had stumbled, he had sunk, but Jesus never let go. Maybe that's the greatest lesson of this story. Faith isn't never falling. Faith is knowing who will be there when you do. Jesus didn't come just to show his power. He came to reveal the heart of God, a heart that saves, that sustains, that walks with us, even when we're soaked in doubt, shaken by fear, marked by failure. He doesn't just save, he restores, he transforms, and when he steps into the boat of your life, the storm ends, and your heart finally finds peace. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us reach more people with the word that transforms, that lifts, and that never lets go. May God bless you, and see you in the next video.